Hello, everybody. Welcome to Marine Science Fiction. I'm here, Cameron, with the announcements. Back in the hot seat. John's not here, so I get to do it again. Isn't that fun? All right. So, as per my usual, I like to begin with asking you guys for money. So, first things first, we got membership for you guys. Membership comes with all sorts of benefits. I'm going to go over a couple of them over the course of these announcements. But most importantly, it supports your club. So that is a great thing. And it saves you money down the road. So that's pretty good for you. That's $6 for the semester. You can talk to Claire if you are not a member yet. Now's a great time to sign up because there's a lot of great opportunities for you. That includes discounts on t-shirts. And members and non-members can still buy keychains. We've got those up here. Ooh, Ava has one on her keys.
Ava has three. We sell the blue. So
we've got the blue UFO. It says star on it. It's super cool. It's like $1. Personalize your keys. It is exactly $1. Precisely $1. So there's super cool. Customize your keys. We also have we lug our fridge up here every day so we can provide you with cold sodas. And we have some delicious deep sea themed soda flavors for you today, such as Deep Sea Sprite and Pepsi. Really? Nothing from that? We were so proud of that like 15 seconds ago. Just dead. Thanks, Ryan. Okay, well, and if you guys buy a soda, that money goes to the IBF, which is the International Bipolar Foundation. We're supporting that charity this year in honor of Carrie Fisher. You can also just give us money for that, and 100% of those proceeds will go to the IBF. Other things happening is Black Panther. One of those member benefits we talked about is pre-purchase of tickets. So if you guys give us $10, or not us, Claire, if you give Claire $10, we will go to the movie theater and we will pre-purchase your ticket to Black Panther. And this is actually a really popular Marvel movie. Tickets are selling out in some places, we've heard. So this is a great opportunity to not have to go all the way to Regal Henrietta, but still reserve your seat. So that is one of the member benefits, is that we grab your tickets for you. Another member benefit is discount at Starfest. Starfest is our annual science fiction convention happening on March 3rd this year. We are going to have a lot of things there, too many to go over in just one announcement. So I will do one highlight, and that is Guns of Icarus Alliance. This is a really awesome steampunk airship co-op PvE game where you and 3 of your closest friends all hop aboard a giant Zeppelin, and you fly the ship, you shoot the guns, you fix everything that gets broken, and you try to take down waves of AI-controlled biplanes, ships of comparable size, and gigantic boss ships. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of chaos. Everyone's shouting at each other, and if you manage to pull together a victory at the end, it feels fantastic. I recommend you go to Starfest for a chance to play Guns of Icarus Alliance. You can get your tickets today from, again, Claire is the master of monies today. Again, discounted if you purchase your membership before you purchase your ticket. And if you want to help out with the committee, we are really coming in. It's 1 month away, and there's still setup that we need to do. And if you want to lend your hand to that, our committee meets Sundays at noon in the Mosaic area, one of those rooms, which is like back that way, around the corner in that zone on the 2nd floor. There's big glass windows. You can see all of our beautiful shining faces in there. And please stop by, say hello, ask how you can help, because I promise there is some meaningful work for you to do there. Another announcement is this Saturday, February 10th, we are doing Star Crafts from 2 to 4 in SAU 10:10:10:15. This is our social night for the semester. We're going to have a little bit of craft supplies for you guys. We're trying to spin it in a more like artistic sense. So if you have some sort of cool artistic talent, you can come and show it off there. Like I mentioned, we're going to have craft supplies for you guys, but we'll also be doing a couple of tutorials on how to maybe develop that artistic craft. Specifically, we're having a free Photoshop tutorial. So if you have the software and it's just kind of like sitting on your computer, you can learn how to make really cool stuff with it. So that is, again, this Saturday, February 10th from 2 to 4 and SAU 10:10:10:15, which is about through the ground from us. Please go down the stairs. Don't jump through the ground. Rubicon is coming up really soon. That is RWAG's convention. That is February 16th to 18th in the SAU. Ryan, what sorts of cool stuff's at Rubicon?
Oh man, all right, so we're gonna have a D&D Epic, which is a 30-player game of Dungeons and Dragons. It's very exciting. We have the creator of Star Wars: The Gathering, which is a very popular fan-made set, Reddit famous. We also have the Pentathlon, which is our annual competition, 5-game gauntlet for you and up to 4 of your friends. Board game, video game, card game, tabletop role-playing game, and a minis game. Top score wins. We've got a whole bunch of cool stuff that we haven't announced yet, so be sure to talk to me after if you're interested. Take a poster. Please take a poster,
Man brought handouts. Get his handouts. Other things that we have going on is we have our PR committee, which meets Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. PR committee, we make a lot of posters. All the fantastic posters that you see hung up around campus are designed and a fair bit created in that PR committee. And if that's not incentive enough for you to join, we also give out prizes. So for people who attend PR committee, design, or hang up posters, we award PR points to. And with enough PR points, you can redeem them for prizes, something like a free t-shirt or a movie ticket, or even some exclusive prizes that are only available through PR point redemption, like maybe a special shirt of some sort. I don't know, you didn't hear that from me. Finally, the final committee, no, not the second to final committee I'm asking you all to join is the Webmaster Committee, which meets every first and third Thursday of the month. And if you want more information on that, it's got its very own Slack channel, so you can join the Webmaster division of Slack. Yes?
Question about Starfest real quick.
Yeah.
If I want to volunteer for that but don't have time to go to the weekly meetings, is there going to be more information about that?
Yes. So, we need people to do things like, watch certain areas or like check for badges and whatnot. And so,
Karen, may I?
Oh, yes, please.
If you'd like to volunteer at Starfest, so you don't have to show up to all of our weekly planning meetings to volunteer at Starfest. If you want to do that, Google RIT Starfest. That'll take you to our page, and you can sign up to be a volunteer. We'd love to have you.
All right, great. Thanks.
All right, and one final committee is book club, which meets 6:30 before the mission, right outside. They're going over The Naked Sun, which is a book by Isaac Asimov. You may have heard of him. He wrote I, Robot, Last Question, lots of short stories, and longer novels. And we're going over one of his fantastic works. Fun fact, he's the first one to use the word Android. How neat is that? Finally, we have a bylaw that we're going to be going over very soon and voting on next week. This bylaw is basically a little bit of addition to the STAR Constitution. Anyone who wants to look over that, we want to make this as great as possible. Members will be voting on it next week, but anyone can just have a look over at it, and then we will be discussing that in more detail at the Bridge Crew meeting tomorrow. And that information, Bridge Crew meeting information is on the calendar. That is 5:30 in 1000. Yes. So 5:30, 1000, right downstairs if you want to talk about that. Anyone who wants to have a look at the bylaw right now, raise your hand and Ava will bring it over to you.
Yeah, we have physical copies if anyone would like to take a look. You don't have to be a STAR member to have a physical copy. We want as many people's opinions as possible so that we can create something that is good.
Absolutely. All right. Anyone else want the bylaw?
We'll also have them up front. You can grab them as you leave if you want one or find us. Yeah.
All right. And with that, I will hand it over to Joe for his mission. Cool. Hand it back to me for those closing announcements. If you can't make it to the Bridge Crew meeting to discuss the bylaw, you can do that over on the slide. No problem. This.
Space, the final frontier.
These are the voyages.
That's wrong. That is completely wrong. It is not the final frontier. There are two final frontiers. There is a second one down where Down where it's better, down where it's wetter, under the sea. I know those aren't the lyrics, I mixed them around, it sounds better that way. So before we get started, I just want to clarify something. When we say marine sci-fi, we mean sci-fi that takes place in or around the ocean. We are not talking about space marines. So if you were expecting Halo, sorry. So why are oceans ideal for sci-fi? Why is there so much sci-fi set in the ocean? A few reasons. They cover the majority of the planet. There's so much of the land, of the Earth, that there's so much room to work with. Home to a wide variety of creatures, unlike those found on land, which also serve as great bases for creatures like Mark Chang over here is clearly a sense of aquatic life. And here we have the xenomorph, the fuzzy xenomorph, right next to a picture of a dragonfish. You can see the resemblance. There's actually another animal that also inspires the xenomorph, which we'll get to later. Water is a source of life, at least on Earth. Maybe elsewhere in the universe it works differently, but here, water is where life came from, and so if we're looking for other forms of life, then that's a good place to start looking. Cool tech used to explore oceans, submarines. We got the Jules Verne design, or the Nautilus design down there, which is the one from the Disney movie specifically. But just like how there's cool tech used to explore space, there's cool tech used to explore the oceans, and it's fun to write about new improvements to that technology. Holds a lot of secrets about the Earth's past. It's just stuff falls into the ocean a lot. There's shipwrecks. There's other stuff just falling into the ocean, and sometimes like aircrafts. And if aircrafts can end up there, then why not spacecrafts? Why not other tech? What if there's a ton of ancient aliens, secret stuff hiding under there? And just so much about them is unknown. What's unknown? Well, there's estimated 8.7 million species on Earth, and 2.1 million of them are in the ocean. This is according to a 10-year project called the Census of Marine Life that went from 2000 to 2010. According to them, out of the 2.1 million species in the oceans, only about 228,450 are currently known, which leaves an estimated 89% of marine species left undiscovered, which is a lot. We can talk a lot about the quest for life outside of Earth. There's so much life. That's cool. I support that. But there's so much life on Earth also. Yeah.
How did they make that estimation of 2.1 million species when they only know a fraction of that?
A lot of cool math and statistics and stuff that I personally don't understand.
Also, I think that they find evidence of certain species of people, but they haven't seen the actual thing.
And don't forget, there's always a bigger fish.
Yes. Yeah. It's a lot of statistical stuff. It makes sense if you know statistics. I don't know statistics that well.
Let's talk about like exploring the ocean more. We have explored space more than we have explored the ocean.
Yes, we have. Actually, a fun fact in a bit. And also, so much of the ocean has never been visited by humans. How much has ever been visited by humans? Well, first I'm gonna give a brief overview of the ocean so we could explore that better. So a brief intro into oceanography and the zones of the ocean. So we're going top to bottom, and we're not talking about the stuff closer to the shore. We're talking about like out in the sea. So at the top we have the epipelagic zone, also known as the sunlight zone. This is where we have sunshine. This is where most of the light reaches the water before it starts getting before the colors all absorbed and it doesn't reach down anymore. Because of that, most of the photosynthesis, primary production, happens in this area. So most of the energy that goes down further up into the ocean starts up here. And it's home to pretty much any type of marine life you can think of. Some of these species have, or some of these types of animals have certain species that live further down, but almost every species you can think of has at least some types that live in that top zone, which is about 660 feet deep. So basically, if there's a Pokemon base on it, it probably lives in that area. So next we have the mesopelagic zone, also known as
You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension, A dimension of sound, a dimension of sight, a dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You just crossed over into the twilight zone.
Thank you, Rod Sterling. So this zone goes from 660 feet at the bottom of the sunlight zone all the way down to about 3,300 feet. It was first discovered. Oh. It was first discovered during World War II when military was doing sonar tests on working on anti-submarine technology. They put the sonar down into the water and realized, hey, this is reaching a lot further down than we thought it did. It actually reached right at the border between these two zones because of in this place there's something called a scattering layer of fish, which means that in this area, we're going to get to it, it's a lot darker. This is where there's still a little bit of sunlight. So a lot of creatures will hide down in this area and then come up here to feed and then go back down. So right along the edge, there's a scattering of fish going up and down, which creates a really high density that the sonar can pass through. So they discovered the bottom of the West Pelagic Zone using the sonar. Like I said, so it gets a little bit of sunlight, nowhere near as much as the top zone, not enough for photosynthesis, but still a little bit. And because of that, there is basically no primary production here, no photosynthesis. But there are really cool creatures down here. A lot of stuff that like inspires sci-fi. A lot of things are super transparent, like this type of squid over here. You got things like comb jellies with nice bioluminescent lights. You got, okay, it's hard to see. This is a hatchet fish. It has like a very silvery body that is kind of like slitted, and because of how it is, when you're facing it forward, you can see it, and as it starts to turn sideways in the dark, it like reflects off what little light there is and becomes invisible as it turns. And this is its predator. In order to see through that clever disguise, has these giant eyes, almost like alien-like eyes. And on the top left, I said earlier that a second sea creature inspired the alien creature. That is called a phronema. That is the other creature. You can kind of see the body shape. It's in that thing that it's in is a stolen jellyfish body that it basically swims around in with its larva to keep them safe.
Wait, is the jellyfish still alive? Is it
No,
perfect, or is
it basically ripped the top part off the jellyfish. So next up, we have the bathypelagic zone, and which is the midnight zone, and the abyssopelagic zone, which is the abyss. I put them together because they, in terms of light, they're both the same. They have no light at all. The main difference is the temperature, but it's such a slight difference that it varies very much, like what depth one starts and what ends different places. There's no light at all. It's very cold, and there's a ton of pressure. So, how cold? The line that divides the two sections is where it reaches 4 degrees Celsius, which is very close to the point where the water would freeze. And then further down in this area, it can get down to like 2 degrees. Species living in this area are dependent on sediment sinking down from above because they can't produce any of their own energy down there. There's no way to do so. So there's a lot of species like starfish, sponges, that can feed on those sediments, and it's actually an ideal place for them to live because there are, it's so dark that nothing can really find them and eat them, so they sit there and wait for sediments to fall down. Anglerfish are here though, and they can attract prey with their little lantern bioluminescent light. And some larger creatures like whales and larger squids and octopuses will come down here to hide in the dark before going back up to feed. Oh, and there's also sulfur vents that some animals can get some nutrients from, but not all of them are capable of using sulfur. And then finally, the hadopelagic zone, which is just trenches. So just like a gap in the ground at the bottom of the previous zone. The deepest point being the Mariana Trench at the bottom of Mariana Trench at 36,070 feet. So how deep have we traveled? Actually, all the way down to the bottom. This is a vessel called the Trieste. It's a submersible. It's I want to say Swiss. In 1960, it reached the bottom of the Marianas Trench. However, it had an issue with the plexiglass window breaking on the way down, so it was only able to stay down there for about 20 minutes before they had to bring it back up. So it reached the bottom, but it didn't really get to discover much. It didn't get to do anything down there. Fun fact, it was piloted by two people. They were named Don Walsh and Jacques Picard.
Oh.
Jacques Picard's father, Auguste Picard, was the designer and builder of this ship. He did some stuff in hydronautical research. He also worked in aeronautical research with his twin brother, Jean Picard, who is actually who Jean-Luc Picard is named after. Steve Green, Sci-fi.
He's Jean-Luc Picard and his family supposed to be descended from these people, or nothing?
Probably not, because they spelled Picard with two C's. But maybe the C dropped somewhere? I don't know. So they were the first ones to reach the bottom, but like I said, they weren't there long. Currently, the world record is, sticking with sci-fi, which we're going to get to a lot more of soon. James Cameron, actually, went down to the bottom of the trench in the Deep Sea Challenger here, and he lasted down there for 3 hours, which is the longest anyone had been that low. That said, this little vessel only had a tiny window, and it wasn't really like built for exploration or research. So he got to look around, he got to see some cool stuff probably, but he didn't really get to learn anything about that part of the ocean. And there were a few other missions between them, but again, they didn't really get to do much research other than, can we get down there? All in all, fun fact, as Cooper said earlier, we've explored the oceans less than the space. So a little fun fact off of that, there have been less people to the bottom of the Marianas Trench than there have been on the moon. So these are special vessels designed to go that deep, but how about vessels that are actually meant for discovery and research? This is Alvin. It's the most notable submarine that the U.S. has for research, and it can go about half the depth of those. So while we have things that can go further, we're only really able to see things and research things at about half the ocean level. So that leaves so much stuff that we haven't seen yet, especially because this is one ship. We only have a few of them. We can't really cover that much volume of water. So let's get to the fictional stuff. I had a section on the history of marine exploration, but it started to take over the presentation, and that wasn't supposed to be the point of it, so I kind of just cut that out. If we have more time at the end, I might talk about that later. So I divided this into 4 groups based on the themes of the work. Some works have more than one theme applied to it, but I just kind of put a few examples in each of these categories. And they kind of line up with, the first 3 at least, line up with traditional, with this kind of space sci-fi that you think of. So you have exploration, vehicles, things about vehicles and crews and how the journey into the ocean and what they can find and how they find it and all the science behind it. Contact, finding new creatures in the water and how they interact with them. Colonization, building societies and civilizations underneath the water. And then the last category is space oceans, which is marine sci-fi, but not set on Earth, set elsewhere in space. So it's a combination of space sci-fi and marine sci-fi. So for exploration, we're going to start with the obvious classic, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, released by Jules Verne in 1870. The U.S. Navy sent out a crew to find a creature that's been reported by sailors all around the world. It's believed to be a narwhal. So the crew goes out on a Navy ship, they find the creature, they attack it, and then during the fight they realize that, oh hey, this isn't actually an animal, this is a machine. And Captain Nemo pops out, takes them on board, but says that he wants to keep the submarine a secret, so they're not allowed to the submarine. And most of them are like, yeah, you know what, we like being in the ocean, this is cool, let's look around. And they spend the rest of the book just kind of going around and checking out the ocean. And things are pretty great, and then things become kind of not so great. But for the majority of the book, it's just fun undersea adventure time. And this was actually this book was kind of I'm gonna say psychic, but Jules Verne with this book predicted the electric submarine. There were submarines at this time, but none of them were run by electricity. And his designs that he came up with for this book match up pretty well with the Alvin submarine that I just showed a bit ago. He got it right. His ideas made sense. Also in this book, he came up with the idea of a taser, so that works too. And if you don't feel like reading, there's always the Disney movie. Or the French short film by Georges Weiss. Or the silent one. Or the British one. Or the Rankin Bass one. Or the Canadian one that's more futuristic. Or the miniseries that tried to Captain America, Captain Nemo into the 1970s. Or the Australian one. Or the or the anime one. I just started watching the anime one. It's from the 90s, so it has it's 90s anime, but I'm kind of loving it. It's kind of a sequel actually, but
That's nice.
or there's the Michael Caine one, or the Hallmark one, which came out the same year. There's also the Deke one, as seen on Nickelodeon, the 21st Century one, the Dutch rock album one, and the one that is currently in development by director Bryan Singer. And if that's not enough, Captain Nemo also appears in The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and Once Upon a Time.
You know that.
Is Captain Nemo the person they find?
Yes, he's already in the submarine. He's piloting a submarine, hidden from humanity. He has a vendetta against humanity, and so he just kind of ran. He's just like, I'm going to leave humanity. I'm going to go and be in my submarine. And then this crew finds him, and he's like, you can join me in my submarine, but then you can't leave because I don't want you telling people about it. Yeah.
I thought that his vendetta was against the British specifically, though.
Yes, that's eventually we find out more about his backstory and all that, but at the start we just know that it's against humanity. And then we get more details. There's plenty of versions of this. Also one that I found funny that's not pictured. 4 years after the book came out, someone turned it into one of the very first musicals. So I wish that was still around. So some other sci-fi that's based on ground exploration. We have Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, which is weird. A submarine is exploring the Arctic, and it has no radio contact for 96 days. When they return from the Arctic and they can get radio signals again, they find out that a meteor shower has hit the Van Allen radiation belt, like around the Earth, and the sky is now on fire. Somehow. So they devise a plan to stop the fire by shooting a torpedo into the radiation belt. Except they measure that to get the best trajectory, they have to fire the torpedo from the bottom of the Marianas Trench. I have no idea how that makes sense, but because of that, this submarine crew has to travel back into the ocean as far down as they can and stop the sky from being on fire. 60s movies are weird. And then we have the least creative title, Around the World Under the Sea, which is not just a crossover of Jules Verne stories, but this one makes more scientific sense. It's about scientists traveling to the seafloor to place sensors that can detect earthquakes before they happen. And on the way, they just see a bunch of cool stuff under the sea. And it's fun. Next some books. Frank Herbert, the author of Dune, wrote The Dragon in the Sea. It is a 1956 novel. Submarines are being used by warring nations to steal oil from each other. And then the submarines began disappearing, but they kind of quickly dispel any idea that, oh, maybe it's like some big fish or sea creature. It's actually sleeper agents on the submarine. They say that very quickly. So it doesn't really get super into the marine stuff. It just happens to be on a submarine. And then there's Starfish from 1990. This one is, I put this one in here because it does something really cool. Instead of focusing on technology, it focuses on biology. The crew that's sent under the sea, they're sent to the rift to harvest energy for the surface. But instead of going in like some high-tech submarine, the crew themselves are bioengineered to be able to survive underwater. And it goes into biology more so than the submarine tech, which is a cool way of doing it. Recently, there have been some video games out that get into marine exploration. I'm not really sure how sci-fi these are. I haven't played many of them.
So now you're exploring an alien planet ocean.
Oh, really? Okay, cool. That's on my list. That is Song of the Deep I've played. Song of the Deep is honestly not very sci-fi. It's pretty fantasy. It has a lot of magic and stuff, but I don't care. You're in a submarine and it's cute and adorable, and I love it, and I want to talk about it anyway.
Another game, I can't remember, like you and me at the bottom sea or something.
The what?
It's like a co-op game where you like. I heard of Lovers in a Terrible Space Time. What's it called?
Sounds familiar.
It's kind of like that, but you're in a submarine.
Oh, cool. I will check that out. So the next grouping of marine sci-fi are ones based around contact with sea life. And it's very much like contact with alien life in space sci-fi. Except in space sci-fi, you can do things with like, hey, we found this cool bacteria on this cool bacteria on this planet. In marine sci-fi, if you're like, we found this cool bacteria, it's like, great, that happens like every other week. So it's mostly like bigger organisms. But sometimes what they find in the ocean actually is aliens. Michael Crichton's Sphere, they don't actually find aliens themselves. They find a human from the future who has been manipulated by alien tech in the form of a sphere that gave him kind of like reality bending powers. And somehow he came back in time 300 years, and his ship crashed in the sea. Startide Rising is from a series, its second book. It's something called the Uplift Saga. The premise of the saga is that for any species to reach sentience, they have to be uplifted by another species that already has sentience. So humans go underwater and they find some ships that belong to an alien species called progenitors that they are supposed to be the first race that had traveled the universe, uplifting species, and that included the humans. And then, of course, there's Pacific Rim. The monsters come out of the water, but they're actually coming out of a rift from their home world, so they don't really live in the water. They're aliens at the bottom of the sea, so like the other one's actually aliens.
Basically, everybody sees things in the water.
Yeah, it's still marine sci-fi. It's just that they don't live in the sea. And then we have some more alien-like things in the ocean, like Deep Star 6, where the tagline is literally "Not all aliens come from space." And I watched the trailer for this movie, and it looks like it's literally just the movie Alien, but in a submarine, like a fish alien monster. So then we have, so the variety of species you can contact with have a wide range. And on one end of the scale, you have creatures that are very much animals, but usually somewhat different. Like the shark in Jaws, it's almost regular shark. It has some, it's not completely, which is why it's sci-fi. It's not exactly a real shark. It's larger, it's more aggressive. They clarify that it's not a normal shark, but it's still basically a shark, and we're in contact with it. And just like that, all the other killer fish movies, killer shark movies, Octopus, that Piranha won a few years ago, Mega Shark and Giant Octopus, Sharktopus, they all fit in this animal category. And even Godzilla, he spends most of his time in the ocean, and then he comes out and makes contact with humans very violently. And they fit in that too. And then there's also this book called The Swarm, in which it's not just a fish, it is literally every fish attacking humanity. Whales are knocking over ships, and crabs are pinching people and putting toxic poisons in them, and they're just trying to get revenge on humanity for what we've done to the ocean. I think they sing what they like.
What about Sharknado?
Oh, I actually had that in my notes. Yeah, I guess Sharknado counts.
It's really the quote where the detective is like, I keep up on my house.
But yeah, Sharknado counts, I guess. Then you move it up the scale, and you have animals that are still animal-like, creature-like, but more human. Like the creature from the Black Lagoon, or in the Shape of Water. The monster in that, or the creature in that, is based on the creature from the Black Lagoon very much. Guillermo del Toro had seen the creature from the Black Lagoon and always thought, you know, I feel bad for the monster. And he's not the only one. The lead actress in the movie also said she felt bad for the monster while filming it. And so he was like, I'm going to make a movie where the monster is happier and gets to actually like, and is more sympathetic. And so we got Shape of Water, where, yeah, he's still a creature, he still has animal instincts, but he can learn from humans, and he learns to communicate with them through sign language. And so he's not as animalistic as the shark from Jaws, but he's not quite full underwater society yet. For full underwater society, we have beings that are either on our level of intelligence or higher, like our level of society advancement. So we have like the Atlanteans from that one episode of SpongeBob, or the Atlanteans from Atlantis: The Lost Empire, or the Atlanteans from Marvel Comics, or the Atlanteans DC Comics.
Or the Atlanteans from the Lizard of Atlantis.
Oh, and what about the Atlantans from Futurama?
The Gungans?
Okay, they're coming later. They're in the space ocean section. See, they're in the space oceans. The ones that are on Earth and fit this category are all Atlanteans for some reason, which makes no sense, because if you look at the myth that Plato originally wrote when he came up with the Atlanteans, he said that they were defeated, that Atlantis was defeated by Athens and then was sunk by the gods because they lost favor by being beaten by Athens. What?
So it should be an
Well, that's like I think. First of all, they shouldn't have more technology than Athens because they were in Greece at the same time. But also, if they lost to Athens, why did these societies, not the SpongeBob one, that one's different, but why did these societies all exist millions of years before Athens existed, according to their respective canons?
Because they were not in the same.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Why, if it's not the same thing, just make it your own society, be creative, give it a new name.
Because honestly,
Why fall back on Atlantis?
if I look at it right, it's because most people don't no longer associate Atlantis with Greece anymore.
The Atlantis movie literally started with the quote from Plato.
I know. I'm saying most people, and I'll say most people didn't see that movie. It's a good movie, but we know. But it's just they think Atlantis is their own thing, and they forget the original legend. They broke off of Greece.
It did travel around the world a lot, but literally quoted Plato.
There's an interesting version of the Atlantis story that I vaguely remember from the 2003 version of Ninja Turtles, where they find this like hidden society. They like one of the people from it explain it as a society called Atlantis, which eventually ended up becoming translated as Atlantis. I forget all the details of it. It was an interesting side story.
Cool.
In Neil Gaiman's Books of Magic, which is a Vertigo imprint, thus DC, there's a little boy that's being led by the Phantom Stranger. So if you have knowledge of DC, you understand that the Phantom Stranger is a mysterious figure. The Phantom Stranger is guiding little boy Timothy through the cosmos, and he speaks to a wise old man discussing how the concept of the Atlantis, as we say, as described by Plato, is one of many Atlantises, and that Atlantis is actually a story that transcends past this portrayal. There are many Atlantises, many fallen cities, many fallen treasures.
Bobby?
It's also the myth that you looked before, to look back at some of the other cultures around the world.
Really?
Lemuria also is a rival type of society, where that was in the Pacific Ocean, and it was supposed to be equal to Atlantis in a way, which it's really strange looking at like all the world's myths on different lost ocean societies.
Cool.
Really strange.
Also, so I love Atlantis: The Lost Empire, but I went back and watched it to make this presentation. That part bothered me. The other thing that bothered me is the ancient text he was reading to find out where they were said Iceland, which means that back millions of years ago when they existed, they already had a name for Iceland. And it was the same as ours, which makes less sense because Iceland doesn't actually have ice, which means that they had the same reasoning for the name that we did.
Being green.
Yeah.
Hey, one of the things I'm getting from this is we need to give credit to the Conduit, that obscure shooter from the Wii, because in Conduit 2, you go to Atlantis, and it's not any of that. The only reason there's any technology there is because some aliens, question mark, set up shop, some sort of other hyper advanced group was like, look, an abandoned city that humans don't go to. We can set up shop here.
Oh.
in addition to many other cities around the world. It's like, they'll see the ones, they could stumble upon the ones above ground, but we should have one down here too.
Atlantis also appears in 20,000 Leagues, but it's completely in ruin in that. Although in that anime version I was talking about, I think there's a twist that Captain Nemo is Atlantean. I don't know. But yeah, so you have the underwater civilizations. They usually have high technology because the idea is that their technology was lost to the ocean. So you do a lot with playing around with that. Sometimes you got superpowers, you got stuff from the gods. Usually you have people who are pretty buff because they need to survive. They need to fight against the pressure and the currents. Swimming, build strength.
Evolving or even genetically manipulating themselves with the help, whether that is through their own technology or if it's with the help of deity appraisal and patronage, they manipulate themselves to be able to give themselves skills.
Yeah. Or sometimes just have magic crystals, or maybe they're not magic, maybe they're like energy crystals in Atlantis. Also, there was a book that I forgot to write down the name of, so I feel bad about it, but there was a book where these people found an underwater civilization, a really, like, a super ancient one, and the crew called it Atlantis, but the people in it didn't, and I appreciated that. So the next category is colonization. So let's start with Sequest DSV, which I think Bobby was talking about. I actually haven't watched it yet, but I read about it. So basically, the year is 1993. CBS is making a ton of money off of Star Trek: The Next Generation, and NBC is like, "Hey, we want that money too, but if we make a show set in space, no one's going to watch it because it's just going to be another Star Trek. So we're going to make the same thing but underwater." It takes place in the far off year of 2018. And
Is this the Holocene era or Gregorian calendar?
Earth has depleted almost all of its resources on the land, but there's still plenty on the ocean floor. So colonies start to appear on the ocean floor, and they form a union between most of them called the United Earth Ocean Organization, or UEO. They drop one of the O's. 1993.
Well, they've done a representation of humanity. Like, usually just add those, usually just enter forward and fine.
Yeah. Sequest is a deep sea vehicle, the DSV, owned by the UEO, and is created, and its crew is tasked with basically the same things as the Enterprise: research the ocean, form diplomacy between the colonies and the colonies that aren't part of the Union yet, and defend the Union colonies against the ones that are, and if they ever need to be. So they have a cool design for a submarine that kind of looks like a starship, and they have the ranks just like Star Trek, and there's their crew. It had 3 seasons. The 3rd season is called Sequest 2032. There's a bit of a time jump.
Yeah. That was also to deal with the alien incursion that they end up having in the show, in which they do a time skip because they get pulled out of Earth and they go to space with Mark Hamill.
Man, I'm gonna find this show somewhere. It sounds amazing.
It's okay. Kirk was a evil, basically like a Cuban dictator.
Then we got some movies where about colonies under the sea. There's City Beneath the Sea. So we start off, we get a look. The city's already there. We don't know why it's built, but there's City Under the Sea, and we get a look at how they operate in the city, how life's like there. From the point of view from someone who was originally there, came back to land, was working for the government. Something went wrong with an oil rig he was watching, and they're like, "Well, we don't want you here anymore. We're going to reassign you back down there." And it's from his point of view of adjusting to the undersea society. And then aliens attack for some reason, which is I feel they didn't give a reason in the synopsis I read. I want to assume they had a reason to go for this city specifically, because otherwise, why bypass the easy targets on the land and go straight for the one down on the ocean floor? But that's the story of that one.
Because plot.
Yeah. And then we have Goliath Awaits from, which is an interesting colonization story. A World War II submarine sinks to the bottom of the ocean, but the hull remains intact, and some of the crew members survive. and they continue to just live in the sunken hole somehow with enough oxygen for several decades. And they form their own society in the submarine. And then in the present day, 1981, when the movie came out, the current citizens of the society are bound by the surface humans, and fun times ensue. Sounds interesting, but it's a different way of colonizing, just accidentally ending up there and just being like, hey, we should form society here. Obligatory Bioshock slide, because when I said I was doing this, everyone told me I should talk about Bioshock, and I'll be honest, I've started, I barely talked about it. From what I understand, so I know Rapture is an underwater city, and they do some cool things with the tubes connecting the buildings, but from what I've played so far, you spend most of your time in the buildings, and you don't really get that much of an underwater feel. What?
Actually, at one point, you become a big zaddy, and so you put on a really big helmet so you can walk. That might be the second one. Sometimes you are underwater, but the big point of being underwater is them being underwater is that they just thought it was cool, and then they found the magical slugs that they call atoms. Which give,
different than slugs.
I don't know.
I don't know if they have anything fun.
I thought they called slugs atoms. I'm sure one of them.
Okay. So they actually do things with the underwater setting besides that. That's nice to know. I was saying that for the most part, it's focused on the society within Rapture and the Andrew Ryan's ideology, so it doesn't get a lot of focus to the underwater, so that's so cool. And I like the Big Daddy design, even though it's kind of weird. It's based on a dive suit called the Carminoli dive suit from 1878.
There's a bunch of different ones.
What?
There's actually more than that.
Oh, there's different Big Daddies?
Yeah, I've not seen the river one.
Like I said, I'm not that far in the game.
Okay.
But the main Big Daddy that we see is based on the Carminoli dive suit, which was never actually used. They built prototypes, they're in museums, but that one was never actually used for
I
diving.
feel like the Big Daddy played as an advisor too, as like the more traditional old timey dive suit.
Okay.
It's like a
Yeah.
it's not a hard case helmet, but like you have like the window, like a single window in your face.
Yeah, the single window is more common. The multiple window is like indicative of that design. And then we'll move on to the space oceans. Like I said earlier, water is the source of life. So when you're trying to come up with life in space, you sometimes want to start with water. That's what you're writing as your source of life. So go back to real science for a second. We might have a space ocean right near us. This is Jupiter's moon Europa. Its surface is made of ice, or its crust is made of ice, and scientists believe that there's a layer of liquid water below the crust, and we can't see below the crust. We're sending things out there to check. Maybe there is life there. Who knows? That's a cool thing. Yeah. For other space oceans, we got like the planet from Interstellar, and again, water is a source of life. We need water to survive. So this is one of the first planets that humanity looks on when we can't live on Earth anymore. I can't remember what was wrong with the planet.
It was far too close to black holes. The time dilation was 1 minute is like 1 hour 7 years at the time.
Was that the only issue?
And like the tidal effect of black holes is
Oh, okay, right, yeah. So that's a problem I have to consider with the oceans, the waves controlled by gravity and different gravity on different planets, that affects that. You got, here you go, Ryan. You got Otogunga from Star Wars, and say what you will about those movies and the Gungans, but their city looks pretty awesome.
Quite bomb. Looks cool, but
their city looks really cool. I would live there. Again, just cool underwater designs, and the Gungans themselves are based on, have many fishy-like parts. Yeah.
So it's taking them from Mario Odyssey and made the architecture as it increased the coolness of the architecture as much as it decreased the coolness of the residents.
Yeah.
Also, under the Star Wars thing, there is an entire field of art in Star Wars Clone Wars where they go to Montala. Because the Civil War between the Montala people, which is what Animac is Montala, and the Corn people, because the king of Montala was killed, to respect the Corn people, the rest of the Civil War breaking out. But then, like, they actually called in Gungans to help. But But, but yeah, it's an interesting, like self-contained art if you want to watch something that's like marine sci-fi. So, because the tiny episodes like go all in the water. Like Anakin and Ahsoka and have like night suits on, so it's interesting.
Nice.
Doesn't Nabu have a water core apparently? Like, am I just imagining that detail? But apparently it's a core instead of magma water or something.
Yeah, it was.
Is someone who knows more about Star Wars? Yeah, it is.
That's what they said.
Okay, cool. Cool. One of the best examples I've seen of meshing marine sci-fi and space sci-fi is Gargantua.
Yes, somebody mentioned this show. Thank you.
This is actually the first anime I watched all the way through, just a few years ago. And yeah, it's about a space pilot who crash lands during a space battle on a water planet, an ocean planet, and it's found adjusting to the life there, but it makes does some cool things with the space and the water. Like in the first episode, he's fighting these like tentacle alien monsters in space, and then he gets to the ocean planet, and there's squids, and he's afraid of them, and he wants to kill them. And I'm gonna leave it at that because, yeah. And then the most recent example of space ocean was in the Rick and Morty episode. The Rick Atlantis mix up, which they didn't show it. They told us the name was about Atlantis, and then they didn't show it. And
That's what we got was super good.
not Atlantis.
One of the better.
Probably be a tricky place anyway.
And that was the prepared material. So we're gonna go on to discussion. So yeah.
Another thing with colonization. There's a book called Dark Light. It's like kind of near future with like climate change and overpopulation. They start colonizing the seafloor, but then like the children who are born underwater get like abilities, like the one can like be electrified. I don't know. It's a pretty good book.
Cool. Anyone else have any other examples? Yeah.
Examples of what?
Or anything you want to say?
I think actually I was actually viewing over the weekend, if I'm not mistaken, that it was actually that's often. I mean, I don't blame you. This is a great presentation. I'm not just going to give a rating of 2 out of 10 on IGN or anything, but but admittingly, I think the concept of the fish that was presented to represent us that was based on to create the xenomorph form, I think actually is a myth. But but by considering that that's a myth and that the fish then was discovered after the creation of the xenomorph concept, only probably is worse considering that we now discovered actual organisms in our universe that actually look like that.
Oh yeah, the fish was actually discovered after, and then that just shows like how the aliens we design are so based on marine life that we ended up finding marine life that look more like the aliens we designed.
Yes. That's supposed to show how aliens are.
Yeah.
I think Blue Planet actually made a misconception, if I'm not mistaken. I was reading through comments and someone said, Blue Planet made the mistake of saying that this fish was what inspired the xenomorph.
Yeah, it was the one that acted, the one in the jellyfish that acted like that was parasitic, not the one that looked more like the dragonfish.
Okay.
Like I watched that episode while writing the presentation.
I mean, Blue Planet's great.
I love Blue Planet, yeah.
How can you talk about marine-based sci-fi without forgetting the instant classic Battleship? I mean, it does fit the bill. Like they're plotting aliens that invade Earth, create the oceans, so the Navy has to fight them. Like, what budget? Battleship. Battleship. Like aliens just made via the ocean because they're aquatic based. And like, so I mean, it's not a good movie by any means. It's fun, but I find it fun from Battleship. That's one fun scene.
You missed Abyss as well.
Oh, from what I saw, is that another like killer shark?
No, this is pretty sure where they end up finding down at the bottom. They find a strange, intelligent, hyper-intelligent creature.
Oh, okay.
Is that the one where something gets eaten by a shark?
No. Yes, no, it's 1989 of James Cameron movie where when they go down there, they start there's this really cool CG scene where you see this water moving around their, basically their outpost. They're underneath the ocean on a rig doing research, and they created a dive suit that uses pressurized water with a high oxygen content so that they can breathe in this liquid deeper under ocean. And then they come across this thing that actually manipulates water.
Cool.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, I definitely saw that one listed when I was researching. Something mixed together. I was looking down a long list of sci-fi movies that said they were sci-fi that were underwater. And I was like reading through descriptions, and like at least half of them were they go underwater and there's a shark, and I'm like, oh no, it's just another Jaws ripoff.
It's a slightly modified.
That one's better.
But that's
Michael.
What about Soma? It's a sci-fi horror game by the same people who made Amnesia: Dark Descent.
Oh right. That's familiar.
It's all set underwater. At first, it's sort of like a trick where you think it might be in a space station or something, but then suddenly it reveals that you're underwater. I'm not sure how much more I want to go into that without spoiling it, but I can tell you, it really uses its settings.
Cool.
I just thought of something. Based on what you said earlier, you mentioned that the xenomorph was based on sea creatures. I remember watching a video some years back that talked about the cultural influence of Alien. So, do you think that some of the underwater alien-style movies are directly based on Alien? It seems kind of like a full circle thing.
Oh, definitely. The one I talked about earlier was called Deep Sea 6, I think it was called. I watched the trailer for that, and it was very clearly just alien underwater.
I just thought that was fun.
Yeah.
And also with all the listings of different Atlantis. You missed out Stargate Atlantis.
Okay, yes, I want to put this in here, but for what I read of it, I couldn't figure out where it belongs. I don't know Stargate. If you want to talk about it, go ahead. I had no idea where to put it.
Well, Stargate is both is many different oceans because they also have a couple of other alien races that were underwater as well. Or there's the fun episode when they have to go to Russia to take a submarine into the Stargate because they accidentally got stuck on a planet underwater. So that was a strange one.
Yeah, because like I knew that they went to Atlantis, and I was reading it, and it's like, oh wait, Atlantis is on another planet, or it's a spaceship like far away.
It's a spaceship city that was left under the ocean.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't okay. Weird, but okay.
It is a very cool.
Anyone else have anything you want to bring up?
Well, it's not really, but like the Reaper design for Mass Effect is based on cuttlefish. So, because the aliens that made the Reapers are essentially giant cuttlefish.
Yeah.
You have to go to the planet in the Mass Effect series.
Yeah, that makes sense. A lot of aliens are designed on a lot of creatures. They have tentacles and the large eyes, like the guy I showed earlier, and slimy, or they have gills or scales, or just, sometimes beaks, like some squids have. A lot of very aquatic-based designs for aliens. Anything else?
Do you want to go to the bottom of the ocean, John?
Oh, of course.
Like bottom, like China's deep bottom, or like?
If they build something if they build a ship that you can actually like do things with, and not just go down and say, yeah, I was there. Yeah, right.
How do you feel about harpoons?
What about them?
What about
Just in general.
Yeah, they're efficient.
Right, you can use harpoons between whales.
No, in all seriousness, I forgot my real question. How do you feel about basically people using sea creatures and just throwing them in space? Or like using very much like sea principles in space? Like space whales.
Oh, yeah.
Or like the fact that spaceships operate just like real ships a lot of the time.
Yeah, well, the space whales, first of all, and it makes sense that for creatures that are just floating around in space and not on planets, they would very much make sense to be alien-based because space is just like the ocean, flapping around. If it spins, they work just as well in space as they would in the water.
Also, thoughts on Titanic 2?
So, not Titanic 2. How about the Italian animated film?
No, that's not science fiction though. This is actually a science fiction film.
The sequel to
Titanic 2.
The sequel to the original Italian animated one is definitely sci-fi because they go to Atlantis.
Oh,
yes. And there's a giant squid that has a baby face.
Ryan, would you like to tell us about Titanic 2?
I mean, Titanic 2 takes place in the far distant future of 2015. It's basically the first Titanic, except instead of running into an iceberg, they're going around Greenland, where one of the where like a huge piece of ice falls off because global warming and slams into the ship. Other than that, it's the same.
There should be about enough what people want to do.
This is a real one that's been recently proposed.
Why?
Who knows?
Fire started. Fire.
Someone has one?
There is a Futurama episode where they hop down a fourth dimensional space whale. It's basically
Oh, okay.
like Mila is like she hits him with a harpoon and it's like, well, what did you do now? I don't know, I assume whales just died with him with a harpoon.
Ryan, did you have something?
Yeah, just correction. I lied. It doesn't take place in 2015. That'd be ridiculous. It took place in 2012. The movie came out in 2010. Titanic 2.
I thought it's the unintended
Which Titanic 2?
The movie?
The live action Titanic.
The sci-fi original movie? Oh.
Like, isn't the studio Armageddon that also brought a Sharknado?
Well, this is...
Sharknado, yeah. I mean, it's...
Yeah, is that something?
Not just Sci-fi. Sci-fi is the network that produced that, like, shows these movies.
Does
That
Sharknado
obviously
4 takes place in space?
that make bootlegs of other movies.
Yeah, there's nothing else. You guys want to see some of the cool old dive stuff that I cut out of this originally?
Yeah, sure.
So the original diver, the very first divers were sponge divers in ancient Greece, actually. And the way that they dove to get sponges, because apparently actual sponges were used as sponges to clean back then. And the way that they went, and for other things, the calcium carbonate was useful. To get them, they would just tie a rock to their ankle, grab a scimitar, jump in the water, grab the sponges, and then use the scimitar to cut off the rope on the rock and float back up. But the first actual design for an underwater breathing machine was from Da Vinci, actually. He didn't build them himself, but people used his designs and tried to build things based off them, and they look like they could maybe work. It's made of leather.
It's like a weird, like, steampunk concept.
Yeah.
There have been, yeah, I've seen them. Recently, I've seen a lot of Da Vinci's blueprints remade into a tank, the parachute, and it's impressive how well effective they are, considering the resources he had.
Yeah.
There had no internet.
What's friends that's your auditorium?
Yeah. We got. Staying at the dive bell. This was like one of the first submersibles. It didn't do much. It just kind of sat inside it and went underwater. Much like the ones that went to the Mount Marian's Trench. It was you go underwater just so you can say you can. You don't really do much there.
Oh my god. This just reminded me, have you read World War Z?
No, you know that.
I forgot, I didn't remember. Because there's a whole, not only is there an entire part that takes place in a submarine, and they talk about like how like they managed to do like long-term sustainability, but also there's an entire section on underwater zombie fighting, and like different technology they use, like a harpoon gun, or they had one that was basically like a mech suit, and the hands were strong enough to just crush zombie heads. Super interesting. Literally everyone should be.
Well, a lot of submarines are actually, the only thing we did search for is we talk about fuel and we talk about insanity. The fuel in a submarine can last 400 years. It's nuclear power is insane.
What's the guy's name?
Another movie, Waterworld.
Waterworld, yes.
He ends up having to go, Earth is completely covered in water.
Yeah.
That was fun. Basically almost like Mad Max a little bit with how the bad guys are.
Yeah.
Waterworld? Yeah. Oh, where the bad guys.
Where they ostracize the whole person that actually made to survive on the planet? Yeah. So you have gills, you're a freak. Like the entire world is water, and you have gills, you're a freak.
This is what most people consider the first submarine. It was actually just a rowboat, but with the galley underwater. So you didn't get to go far under the water. You were still like basically part of the ship was still above the surface, but they were underwater, so that was first. So yeah, the whole galley would be under the water. Again, I don't think you could actually see out of it. I don't think there were windows or anything. So again, it was just so they could say they could. But then this whole part up here was just filled with air that they got their air from, and they would just throw it along, and they bring people on for tours.
They can't see out, so how would you do a tour?
For the fun of it. They felt like they were underwater.
Somewhere. Above you.
The main reason for building it like that was actually selling.
Okay.
Because of how low it was to the water level, it was easy to slip by and do the ship.
Go.
Yeah.
Power Rangers.
Talk about Power Rangers, Ryan.
I mean, unfortunately, the only really cool underwater Power Ranger. Well, all right, that's not true. There's Power Rangers Ninja Storm, in which the Dolphin Zord literally. I still don't understand how it works in canon, but basically, like, there's a cruise ship that would get turned into the Dolphin Zord and like swim through the water. But more importantly, there was Power Rangers Light Speed Rescue, where the secret Power Ranger base was underwater, right next to the town that they fought in, which was super cool and very sad when it got blown up.
Well, actually, even older than that, during Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, they had these alien rangers, and they're from an aqua planet.
Yes, Aquatar. They weren't very creative.
No, because they
kill so much on Super Sentai.
They gurgled when they talked, and it was hilarious.
They also had like slightly webbed hands and feet.
Yeah.
It was a weird series. Yeah. Power Rangers in water. I could literally talk about Power Rangers a lot every month.
That's okay. If you
So
go
it's
back.
like a series of rounds of 40 minutes, a lot of things, right?
On yourself. It's the 25th anniversary.
Well, I'll include the Super Sentai as well.
Oh, well then, yeah.
It's in the card.
I mean, Ryan, I believe you. I can do this in all my presentations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just have a question for Ryan.
Yeah.
Ryan, are you capable of coming to the Star Mission without bringing up World War Z and the Power Rangers?
Ooh! I mean, I choose not to. I could. I just choose not to.
Sure, Ryan, we can play. I still want to be great. Come to more Star Mission.
Oh yeah, that's how I avoid it. I just don't show up.
Hang out with us.
So yeah, it's just like we have like space rovers, there's also ocean rovers.
Yeah.
That's how we find. This one's for mining, but there's like I can find pictures of the sciencey ones. But we've had them since 1970, and they get to go deeper than we do, and they help us find things down there that we can't get to yet.
Can we watch that gravity stuff to a pipe?
For what?
Gravity stuff into a pipe. Like, is there no undersea pipe that crabs like gets stuck into the middle of the hole? Like, also very fascinating. They will do the same thing.
Oh. What's this one? Ow. I'm new to the body, what? Oh, this one's fun. You want to see the first diving suit?
It's a barrel.
It's just a barrel with a window and armholes. I mean,
What
okay,
could
yes.
possibly go
It's not the
wrong?
first suit, it's the first suit that was actually used.
What could possibly go
Hey, down there, Paul? We can. You probably have a better time than
Yeah,
Did you have something to say?
yeah. I got one, two.
Go, you go.
Okay, that was.
I'm just gonna ask if you were gonna talk about the Hunley at all.
Which?
The Hunley. The first, it was the first successful military submarine made by the Confederates in the Civil War.
Oh, you actually don't know about military ones that much, so you could talk about
It was designed to break the blockade around Charleston Harbor.
Okay.
And it did manage, it sank once, everyone died. They recovered it, and then they managed to sink one ship with it, and then it sank again and it was lost. But it was like, there was no engine or anything. There was like a shaft running through the middle, and the crew would crank the shaft to turn the propeller.
Oh, cool.
And, I'm not sure how long ago, but I think about 10 years ago or so, they found it and brought it up. And it's in a museum in Charleston House. I've been there.
Ooh, nice.
Really interesting.
Cool. Thanks for sharing.
To just get some oohs and ahs, maybe we can check. The Dumbo octopus.
The Dumbo octopus?
Yes, the Dumbo octopus. Yes,
No, that's
just great. And I think I know what that is.
It's
It's adorable.
Search for it.
Like the actual, yeah, okay.
Yes.
I thought it was like the name of a, yeah.
No, it's not a Photoshop.
Yeah, it's just a cute octopus.
Yep, there, yep.
Is that the one from Finding Nemo?
No.
The one that they made.
Oh yeah, yeah, I think that's the one that she is based on. Oh, speaking of Finding Nemo, I was supposed to pull this guy out when I was talking about the Zones of the Ocean. Grab at him. That one's a vampire squid. That one.
So there's such squid blood or something?
No, it just looks kind of vampire. It has like red eyes and pointy parts.
What about the jellyfish that said to be immortal?
What?
The jellyfish that said to be immortal?
Oh yeah.
As it reaches adulthood, it reverts back to its adolescent stage.
Yeah. There's actually a few jellyfish that work like that.
So like the only way you can die is getting eaten by a predator.
And then there's also colonial jellyfish, which are like just colonies of organisms that travel around together like one organism.
But the other scene in Finding Nemo.
About
There's also a funny thing about vampires. There's a show called Sanctuary, in which they actually do have like it's with the woman that sang for Stargate, in which it's dealing with creatures or abnormals of the world, and she's an immortal that helps all the weird creatures around the world, including there's mermaids, there's interesting vampire fish that basically pretend to be that one, but it's not that one. And one episode they end up getting stuck in a submarine because they uncover a new type of creature that is parasitic and takes over your mind.
$8:30. So yeah, if no one has anything else, to say? Then I will hand things over. What?
Blobfish.
I'll hand things over to Cameron before we head out.
Right. Yes, hello everybody. Thank you for coming to this exhibit. If you are a poster, we have some posters for you at the front, but we also have another batch that will be coming in tomorrow, SAU 1000 at 5:30. Please pick up those posters while those need to go to your locations. Also, remember that Starfest tickets are now for sale. If you purchase them in advance, you get a discount. They're cheaper here than they are at the door.
Can we spend time on Starfest?
Not tonight.
We don't have a reason. Also, yes, Black Panther tickets are also and pre-purchase tickets. There's like a building committee for you guys to get more involved in. Those are some cool ways to get like with the community at Start. All those details are in the email. And other than that, I hope you guys have a great week.
So you've seen that show.
That's not.
I need someone.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep the relatively sci-fi. I'm trying to is it a race for the Starfighter or Doctor Who? Because they sound very similar.
He's not always the bad guy. He's developing into a good character, which
Okay.
much of the pilots are called pistols.
Whoops,
That's what I do.
You want oh, sorry. Max. I knew. Sorry.